Hey guys, it's Doodly Squatch here. Got a new video for you, a little bit of fun and some story time. So here we go. Today's drawing, I believe I originally drew this way back in like 2015 on a bit of cardboard from work. That languished in my drawers for a bit before I scanned it, and I colored it in 2016, and then when everyone was doing this, these like 2016 versus 2026 things, I didn't have really many pictures that I wanted to share, but I thought it'd be kind of fun to sit down and redo this guy. So I just took the original scan and wanted to draw on it. This, I believe, was inspired by a fellow named Chet Zar, and he's got a number of very interesting sort of head monsters, I would say. He does a lot of like portrait style kind of things, and I've always been a fan of his stuff, but he also does the occasional sculpt, and one of them was this big, looks like a cyclops, not sure, but it looks like, the front of his face has been like scooped off, and then he's gone in and sculpted a bunch of interior viscera and then made them all shiny with some kind of magic. I'm not too familiar with sculpting and that sort of thing, as far as that part of it, this sort of end game when it comes to it. But big fan of his, and so I drew this after watching one of his videos. He still makes a lot of fun content, a lot of neat sort of quick oil painting kind of sketches, but always very inspiring. I like it. But the story time today, thing I was thinking about talking with people at work, talking about being so big at a young age. A family came through and they had a very tall boy, and I'm like, oh, you should stop feeding that guy. And they're like, yeah, he's only 14. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. He was probably about 6'1", something like that, but just at 14, so a lot of road ahead for growing. So I'm like, well, good luck. But we got to talking about just being tall and the ups and downs, ho ho ho. And it got me thinking about like my experiences as a youth being really tall, and sure, when I was in like grade school, it was interesting being close in height to a lot of my teachers. A little bit of soda, sorry. But I guess the first time it really worked to my advantage was when I started middle school, and doing that in California. Middle school consisted of 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So it's a little different where we are now, but those were the ages that, so 6th grade was my first experience having like a class schedule, multiple subjects, switching classes every hour, that kind of thing. And it was terrifying. I was so scared to do that because, up to that point you were just with your teacher all day, and your classmates. And so I was scared. I had some neighbor friends that were a year older than me, so they were kind of filling me in on the ways of the yard, like I was going to prison or something like that. And how 6th graders are called scrubs, and you're scrubs because you scrub at a toilet. You're the bottom rung, lowest of the low, that kind of thing. And just to stay out of the way of the 8th graders, and it's so weird thinking about now because now I see kids that are in 8th grade and they just look like babies, and to think at any point, that I considered someone that age, frightening is just weird. But so starting 6th grade, I remember walking to the bus stop with my friends, and like as I'm walking to the bus with my friend's mom calls out, "Oh, don't forget to tell them about the socks." and it's very much like that scene in 21 Jump Street where the sort of pressure of those around you, when it's like everyone's one strapping it, and I'm gonna one strap it. I have to, and it was very much like that. My friends are like, "Oh yeah, you don't want to wear your socks like pulled up all the way." So everyone pushed their socks down, like scrunched them down by their shoes. So no long socks. That's nerdy, and then you would loosen your backpack to where your backpack was hanging down like over your butt. So like the loosest you could go. So your backpack's just dangling, swinging. And it's so funny to think about because now it's like, it defeats the purpose of the backpack. And if you have it strapped well, then it, takes the weight off your back. But if you have it like we did in middle school, it's really bad for your back. And that's why no one wanted to carry their books because they're idiots. I don't know. So, just those kind of things, where it's like, oh gosh, I need to fit in. I want to fit in. And so I did those things. But getting to school and being real worried, it's like, oh gosh, they're going to know I'm a 6th grader. I'm doomed. And then I realized no one could tell I was a 6th grader because at age 12, I was 5'10". and growing, so I was huge, so the only thing that gave me away was the blank look on my face and looking lost. But once that had cleared up, I was fine. It was great. And my group of friends kind of stuck with me because I was big and the other kids wouldn't mess with them if I was around, even though I wasn't, I was 5'10", but I was a freaking beanpole. I was, the goalpost for football. But just being tall, it just scared people off. It also, attracted the little Napoleons everywhere that wanted to prove themselves. So I had to learn to deal with that. But by the time 8th grade rolled around, I was 6'4", taller than all the teachers, and fairly well known, if not for my personality, then for just my stature. My 8th grade graduation, I was picked to give one of the speeches, and it was, a part of it was how, my height made me recognized, but not a lot of people got to know me. Oh, poor pity me, that sort of thing. But it's true. When you're big, you're easily recognized, and so if you're trying to not stand out, good luck. And so but I don't know. At no point did I ever want to use it to like springboard myself into like popularity or to be like that guy. I don't know. That was just never my thing. And I was honestly never really, physically imposing, other than to my siblings, because I was a bad older brother and I was mean and picked on them. And the way they describe it, it's like having an angry drunk adult at home, because imagine a 14-year-old but with the size and strength of an adult, but the wisdom of a 14-year-old. So me getting pissed and hitting one of my brothers was like having an angry stepdad hit them. So even though my parents didn't spank us, that I was there. And so I've spent a good deal of my adult life sort of atoning for that. I'm not proud of that. And that's kind of what I've tried to pass on to like my kids. When Alistair is woe is me, I'm not super duper tall, and he's plenty tall. But, like being, height doesn't mean experience. Height doesn't mean, man, height means nothing. It's, all it does is get you attention, and sometimes not attention you want. And yeah, I don't know. It's such an interesting thing because, as an adult, all my height really does is make things kind of inconvenient. Renting cars, flying in planes, just kind of fitting in anything. And then unfortunately, a lot of times some people are scared of you. I try my best at work to be sort of happy-go-lucky and outgoing, and a big part of it is because I don't want people to worry about me or to be afraid of me. I'm often humming or whistling, and it's funny because people ask like, "Oh, you always hum," and I'm like, "I know, it announces my presence." Like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, if I'm in a parking lot and there's a small person walking ahead of me or near me, and they don't see me, and then they do suddenly, sometimes I scare people. So I hum or whistle to announce myself, to make my presence known so as to not frighten them. And they're like, "That's so sad." I'm like, "I know, right?" But yeah, I'm not one to try and to get into any kind of altercation or anything like that, because me being a big brute, automatically labels me as the aggressor in that situation, even if I'm not. Long story short, pun intended, that's funny, is, being tall is not really a picnic, and it's fun when you're a teenager, and that's about it. But if you make it your entire personality, then you're just the sad adult that had to become a bouncer somewhere to keep throwing his weight around. That's not me. Anywho, thanks for joining me. Appreciate you guys. Drop a like, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, ask me questions. I love answering questions. I need material for my videos, guys. As much as I like, talking about me, it's it's nice to have a springboard to work from. So, anywho, catch you later. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.